I think my mindset shifted when I was deployed, and I thought, this is exactly why I'm here. Yeah. That's exactly why I put in the last year of training and flying and late night. So let's make it happen.
Aviators, welcome to the Flight Club podcast. I'm your host, Jason Middleton. I'm a pilot, I'm an aviation entrepreneur, and a huge fan of the people that make up our diverse aviation community. Today's guest on Flight Club served our country for over 20 years as a Marine aviator. Over his military career, he's had multiple combat deployments. He served for 2 presidents as the pilot for Marine One. He's led a life of triumph and tragedy. He's a great family man, a man of faith. He's the co-host of the Second Act podcast. And today, he's working for our friends over at Guardian Jet, buying and selling aircraft for his clients. Aviators, please welcome retired Lieutenant Colonel John Ballinger, callsign Rico.
That's it.
John, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out and making the trek from Colorado to be on the podcast. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah. Well, we met last year.
Yeah, MBAA.
This time.
Yep.
MBAA. And immediately I want to say it was a bromance on my end.
Exactly, dude. I know.
I was pretty intrigued by what all you had going on, and then especially just who you were working with. And
yeah.
And so when you mentioned you had the podcast and I mentioned we had a podcast, I said, we got to figure out some way to get it done.
We're going to do it. Yeah. Well, so I always like, whenever I interview military aviators with a call sign, I always got to ask, where did the call sign come from, Rico?
Well, Marine and Navy call signs, you've always got to have a good story behind them. And we don't do what the Air Force, I give the Air Force a hard time. We don't do what they typically do, where it's a cool sounding, call sign. It's something that's built by what we've done or what we've messed up.
Yeah.
So my call sign's Rico. It's an acronym.
Yeah.
It stands for radio in, crap out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Radio in, crap out. Okay.
Yeah. Long story short, I couldn't talk on the radios when I first started flying, and it even gets more difficult when you're on ship.
Oh, yeah.
Flying around Navy ships. Everything's a pro word and a code word, and it, trying to be secretive in describing where you're at and who you're coming in board with or on board.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't good. And I made a couple really bad calls, and I even made some bad calls to the ship's captain who was in the tower listening instead of to my crew and the other aircraft.
Yeah.
And first time we pulled into port, we had a called Kangaroo Court.
Yeah.
And we all get blasted, and that's where call signs come out of. And
yeah.
Rico was.
I mean, a lot of thought must have gone into that. I mean, people probably did their homework.
Yeah. Well, I know the guy that gave me the call sign, and he had flown with me several times, and he was one of those guys that would be flying and say, okay, we're going to make this call. Why don't you practice it? And I would practice it. That's
so fun.
And then I'd make it and still invariably mess up. So
here you are, a Marine helicopter aviator, and the radios are what's
yeah. It's not just the radios, it's the radios around ship. They're very difficult. It was difficult for me to grasp, but
yeah.
Obviously
there's I imagine there's like maritime lingo and then aviation lingo. And do they mix?
And then there's just made up stuff. Everything's got a pro word or code word. So it was difficult. But I overcame, and 9 months later you get off the ship and you think, I hope I never have to do that again.
And now you're Rico.
And then you find out you're going right back to the ship. And
yeah. Do your friends still call you Rico when
So it's on my business card because, in aviation, you've got to set yourself apart in some way. And so I throw it on there, and some people think it's a childhood call sign or a nickname. And then I get to explain it came from the military.
It's a lot easier to remember than John Ballinger. It's like, oh, it's Rico.
Well,
that guy's awesome.
It's interesting who will call me on the phone and then say, hey, do you like Rico or do you go by John? And whatever works. Whatever's going to help you associate me with getting this transaction done.
Nice.
Helping out.
You got to get your clients calling you that too. Like, that's good marketing, man.
Yeah.
I love it. You're one of your coworkers is Spicoli. I love,
yes.
We're actually doing a deal with him right now. And he's so funny because he's like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High is not even, he's from like Fresno, California, not a surfer. they gave him the Spicoli call sign. It doesn't make sense at all.
Well, we love it because at Guardian Jet, there's 3 of us that have had prior military experience.
Yeah.
So we really feed on each other.
Yeah.
And I do 2 things. One, I've got my call sign on my cards. I try to incorporate my call sign, wherever I can. But I also, usually when I have a client that's transacted with me, I leave them with a presidential coin.
Oh, you do?
That we used to give away from Marine One. And so
Yeah.
I've got other competitors that will call and say, hey, I was just in so-and-so's office. And thanks a lot.
I saw that.
I saw your coin. I know you've been here. So, it's one of those
Leave them at
calling.
We like to leave things behind when we're doing management pitches. Like leave stuff in their office and people come in, they're like, oh God, Silvera was just here.
Yep. That's it. Let people know that I'm hustling and working hard and they better step it up.
So speaking of Marine One, in aviation, we actually had one of our fixed wing pilots that flew in the Air Force One fleet. And it's a huge honor to get brought into that group. And you did it for 5 years and you flew for 2 presidents. What was that like?
Jason, it was first of all, a complete honor. I never thought that I would be doing something like that. When I first started my career, I thought I was going to stay in for the required amount of time, which was 8 years, and then bounce out and do something else. But every deployment, I'd come home and something else would just excite me about the job.
Yeah.
And I kept saying yes. And I kept finding, excitement, and my wife was on board and she was supporting me. So I just stayed in it. And then all of a sudden this opportunity unfolded. And it was actually my wife that encouraged me to take it. She said, John, if you don't apply, there's a 100% chance you won't make it. Because it wasn't right for our family at the time. It wasn't. I had actually applied.
Where were you living at that time?
Well, funny story. I applied twice. The first time I was in DC, I was going to school.
Oh, okay.
Marine school for Marine officers.
Yeah.
And it would have been a perfect fit. I was already in DC, no kids.
Yeah.
We were at a great place, dual income, and wouldn't have to move.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of friends that were already in the squadron.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't get in because I had too many speeding tickets on my record. And
you're an aviator. What do they expect? Come on. You like to go fast.
So I had, the message to me from that was wait 5 to 7 years, let the speeding tickets fall off, and then retry.
Okay.
I didn't think I would. I didn't even think there was a chance because that's so long when you're, 30 years old.
Sure.
But 6 years later, I was actually living in Hawaii, stationed in Hawaii. I was about to deploy to Afghanistan for my fourth deployment.
Yep.
And I was bouncing this off my wife. I said, we have a child. We just lost a child. She was pregnant with our third. And I said, I don't think this is a great opportunity. Yeah. I think it's going to disrupt our life and the way I want to finish my Marine Corps career. And it's just too much to take on right now. And she said, no, I think you should absolutely consider it.
Good
and
for her. Supportive.
She said 2 things. One, if you don't try, there's a 100% chance you don't get it. And then the second thing was, if you go and apply and you get selected, do it with all your heart. Go on the road and be there and do the job the best as you can. But when you come home, be the best father you can. Yeah. We'll make up for the lost time because you're on the road a lot and it's a big time disruptor.
Yeah.
But it was that encouragement that made me decide to apply. And so I applied in Hawaii, and I was actually in Afghanistan when I found out that I got selected.
Oh, really?
So it was a really cool experience. I got selected for HMX, or the Marine One Squadron, and I got selected for promotion to Lieutenant Colonel within about 3 weeks of each other. So it was surreal.
So how long was it between when you were in Afghanistan and you got the call? Were you in, and is there like a school? You got to go to school?
No. So I had been in Afghanistan for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And so I had another 5 months to go.
Oh, okay.
But it's amazing what that opportunity on the backside of something does to you. It just revives
motivation.
And so, yeah, when I got back home from Afghanistan, you don't go to an outside school. We get trained up on all those aircraft inside of the squadron because we're flying aircraft that we've never flown before.
You're training in the aircraft.
Yeah.
In that environment. Okay.
So just an incredible time in my life. I remember just thinking I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
Getting selected for promotion and this job, and then getting home and knowing that we're moving again because, you live your life in these 2 to 3 year cycles.
Yeah.
Where you get somewhere, you learn the area, you learn your job, but you're already looking forward to the next thing. And I remember when I got selected to move, and my family and I actually did move to DC, we just wanted time to slow down because it's such a magical place, so much history there.
What was it like the first time a president stepped on a aircraft that you're flying? What was that feeling like? That must have been overwhelming.
It is. And fortunately, you do about a year of training before you're able to be the co-pilot when we're flying Marine One. So, the first time it was President Trump. First time President Trump steps on board, I was the co-pilot. So you're on the left side of the aircraft. You're looking out the window at him walking up, and the closer he gets.
Oh, that's right. The co-pilot's on the left side.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, the closer he gets, the more nervous I was becoming.
And you're watching him walk out.
And then he walks behind. The pilot, the co-pilot seat, and then comes through the hole there and says hi to us.
Oh, he does.
And you're just like, you have so much going on in your mind, trying not to mess things up, and the calls that you're responsible for and all the actions, but you're trying to soak in this moment where you're, shaking the president's hand for the very first time. It's unbelievable. And then he walks backwards and goes and sits in his seat, and the rest of the team comes on.
Yeah.
And it's business as usual. Now you're looking at a cockpit and the gauges, and you kind of get snapped back into your responsibilities at that point.
What was the day in the life of flying Marine One? I mean, you guys, it's a very different operation than you've been flying in combat zones in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
What was like kind of your normal daily?
Well, and you'll get this as an aviator. I always tell people looking forward, it's the same job, right? You're still adhering to regulations and to training standards, and you're still doing everything that you've been practicing and put in the time for. But when you look back, you think, oh my gosh, what a big responsibility. But, looking back on either the president or 30 Marines that are entrusting you to get them from point A to point B, it's still a very, weighted.
It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. But you just put in the trust that you've done all the training that you're supposed to do, and that the people that are responsible for making the decision that you can now sit in that seat, that they've helped get you there.
Yeah.
And so a day in the life, I mean, we don't transport the president every day.
Yeah.
It could be every other day, but there's several crews that are responsible for that. And I would say, as unexciting as it is, we would train, 7-8 times before we did an actual flight. Or 80% of the time it's training.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 to 20%, it's actually movement of the president, whether that's in the DC area or outside.
And you guys would travel with the president, with the helicopter,
everywhere he goes.
C-17s, put those things in there.
And it's such a cool operation. I mean, to see, anywhere from 30 to 70 Marines going with these aircraft to different places, and how we get them out of the hangar and fold them up and stick them on a C-17 and take off, and then land at our destination, pull them out of the C-17, unfold them, test them, do our required runs and training flights. What a cool operation. There's nothing that
how long would it take you to pull? So you guys land, you got to get helicopters built out. How long would it take them to prep a helicopter for flight?
Yeah, those Marines, they're moving from the minute they pull that C-17 into the chocks. Within an hour, really you can get that thing into a hangar and they're starting to put blades on it. If it's the H3, if it's the 60, we're unfolding the blades and getting them locked in.
Yeah.
But they are so quick and so accurate at what they do. Nothing screams Marine Corps better than seeing that operation and seeing all those Marines working hand in hand with each other to get these things back spinning again.
What an operation, man. It's almost as big as a Taylor Swift Eras tour.
Well, that's the first time I've ever heard.
I got to drop a Taylor Swift reference in. I think it's good for like the YouTube pickups or something. I don't know.
Those key phrases that get you hits.
You always have to drop in Taylor Swift. Yeah. There's my advice. I mean, like back to the responsibility. It's so funny because I flew when I was flying a lot. You know, I'm a Gulfstream pilot, and we fly, you know, celebrities, industry leaders, all these people. Yeah. And I had the opportunity to fly retired President Obama. And I was so nervous. I'm like thousands of hours in Gulfstreams, nothing, you know, nothing. I don't ever get nervous for anything. But having him on board it was just a different feeling.
Right.
And the Secret Service showing up with all their projectiles and all the security stuff. And, you know, it's like, you know, it was an honor to meet him. He was a super, super great guy. Introduced himself, learned my name. We flew him a bunch and he's like, Jason, how you doing? Like, great guy. I really, really, it was an honor to have that. But I was a captain on the flight too. So I'm just like, I shouldn't be nervous right now, but I'm really nervous.
Yeah.
I got to make this a good landing.
Yeah.
You know, it was a different level for me. I don't know.
Put some weight on your actions, but it shouldn't change anything that you are doing.
Right.
Right. And that's what we train. Everything is so repetitive. I mean, we spend so much time in the simulators going over worst case scenarios, but then we spend so much time in the simulators just doing the same drills, the same startups, the same call outs.
Yeah.
And we do everything memorized there at the squadron. Nothing's by checklist.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing to just hear the flow, even in high stress situations, because we've just been doing it so often.
Yeah. How how we ever worried about security and, you know, I mean, this is the highest profile thing flying around the sky at low level. I mean, how I'm obviously you guys did massive amounts of contingency planning and all that, but I mean, were you ever stressed about just security type stuff when you're flying around?
You know, there's so many layers of protection.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you about any of them.
Give me one. Come on, John. One.
No, I'll say there's so many layers of protection and there's so many people that are built into protecting the president.
Yeah.
And it's, again, such a surreal moment when you see him land in Paris, France, and there's 317s side by side, unloading aircraft, unloading vehicles, unloading personnel, you know, and knowing that this is for the president of the United States for a moment in time, and he's going to leave probably at the end of the day and do the same thing the next day.
Yeah.
But flying around, it's really, it's enjoyable because when, you know, the president's on board,
you don't have to worry about traffic.
We don't have to worry about traffic, and there's very little happening around us. So that makes things very enjoyable. It almost puts the pleasure back into flying because you're able to take a second and look around, not have to worry about traffic to your left or to your right.
Yeah. Are you guys using Marine 1 as a call sign? Is that
Marine 1 is the call sign? Yes. When he's on board. Absolutely. Marine 1, Marine 2 for the vice president.
Vice president. Okay.
And then when he's not on board, we go back to our Nighthawk call signs.
Got it. Yeah.
So we're always shifting. I mean, the moment he steps off the aircraft, we're going right back to Nighthawk 1, and everybody knows we're just normal people at that point.
Circle. I imagine like those, you know, you guys are the best of the best and you've known each other for many years. You said something to me about kind of how you got the job and the kind of the relationships, you know, that's how important relationships are. And
absolutely,
we all know, even in business, relationships are everything, especially in aviation.
They are.
It's a high stress industry. We got to work with people we love and really trust, and building these, you know, relationships over time is really how we operate.
Yeah.
You know, tell me about kind of how that affected your career path and ultimately landing in this elite group.
Yeah. That's a question I get asked a lot. And my answer goes back to two individuals, and Adam Horn and Wes Matthews are two guys that I owe my latter half of my career to. And those guys, I bring them up because when I was a junior captain in the squadron, they both checked in San Diego, and I was flying on several of their flights with them, just getting exposure to the area, getting exposure to the mission that we did as Marine aviators supporting Marines on the ground. And, you know, the interesting dynamic is that I always try to treat people as I want to be treated.
Yeah.
I didn't know that 10 years down the road or 12 years down the road, those are the two guys that would be vouching for me to get into the squadron and to provide some sort of background on me, because I was more senior in my career than most people get into the presidential squadron. So I had to rely on those guys vouching for me and those guys kind of leaving good comments. And the typical response I have is the hardest thing about getting into the squadron is treating people well 15 years before you need them to speak on your behalf.
Yeah. Well, that just goes back to who you are as a human.
Sure.
Right. You didn't, I'm sure you're just I've gotten to know you over the last year, and you're just a great human. Right. And that's part of the way you were as a kid as well, and you can't act, you can't hide that kind of stuff.
Well, and that goes to the people that you surround yourself with.
Right.
Right. Who are the pillars? Who are the people that are directing you and helping shape you?
Yeah.
And how much trust are you putting into them? And so relationships are everything. Yeah. I wouldn't be here today without the relationships that I have built and established. And it's just really imperative to be integral. Yeah. To be who you are, you're genuine, and to treat people with respect. Yeah.
So before going, back, those relationships and the people you work with and your career, you flew helicopters for the Marines for 20 years. So 15 of that wasn't flying the fancy job, flying the president around.
Right.
4 combat deployments. That's a long time to be in war zones.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so curious. And you mentioned something about transitions, what I thought about it was like, you're over at war, doing a job, you got to be focused. Everything you do is critical. Mm-hmm. And then coming back to life, with your wife, kids, be there for your, what a weird transition. I've heard a lot of military guys, especially like, my brother was a Navy SEAL, and, a lot of friends were in that kind of world, and they struggle when they come back. It's a real struggle.
I think I'm fortunate in a lot of ways. One, aviation, there's a lot of risk that we take out of it, right? We try to minimize risk. We are not at the pointiest tip of the spear. We're not Marines breaking down doors, not knowing what's on the other side of that door. Yeah. We're planning, briefing, executing a mission, and it usually is going as planned. Yes, there's a couple surprises here and there, but I don't think it messes with you the way some other areas of combat can. Yeah. So in that, I'm very grateful. Yeah. It is risky, and you do think a lot about your family and what you're missing back home. Yeah. But you also recognize that you signed up for this, and I tell people going on deployments is like our Super Bowl. Yeah. Right. You practice, have these games here and there, but when you deploy, that's the big show. Yeah. You're there for a specific reason. And I think, I don't want to speak for anybody but myself, but my mindset shifted when I was deployed, and I thought, this is exactly why I'm here. Yeah. This is exactly why I put in the last year of training and flying and late nights and early mornings and long briefs and, getting ready for this. So let's make it happen.
When you talk about like mitigating risk and safety, being a pilot and an aviator in a combat zone, I think like the bomber pilots and the fighters, they're not as like, I just feel like it's different when you're a helicopter, you're low level, you're dropping troops into dangerous areas. Like I just feel like the risk factor is so much higher with what you guys do.
Yeah.
So, as aviators, we always kind of like manage risk, right? The least risky is to never pull an aircraft out of a hangar, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to stay at home and watch TV.
Yep.
That's the least risk, but that's not our job, is to fly.
Right.
And, my job as a corporate jet pilot, I don't have a whole lot of risk tolerance. My risk tolerance is way down here.
Sure.
Things aren't pretty much perfect. We're like, let's change something.
Yeah.
But you don't really seem to have that luxury when you're a military combat pilot in helicopters.
Right.
So like, talk to me about how you would kind of manage safety, risk, where your kind of corners were, when you were looking at a combat mission.
Well, fortunately, when I got deployed, our mission was already established, right, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, as opposed to the initial assault into, Iraq to start off the war.
Yeah.
Or, think about when the guys initially pushed in for the Gulf, into the Gulf for Desert Storm. I mean, talk about risk. I mean, they're going first aircraft in, they're going into the unknown.
So much unknown, yeah.
So, when you go in and the mission is already established, it's a little easier because now we have zones. We have red zones, black zones, yellow zones. And so you're escalating or de-escalating your posture based on those zones you're flying in.
Oh, okay.
And so as a CH-53 pilot, for me, I'm dropping, troops and gear and equipment and, mail and Red Bulls. And, so you are able to look at the threats accordingly.
Yeah.
When it's Marines that need to get to the front lines, obviously that's a high priority. So you're willing to accept a little bit more risk.
Yeah.
But you also prepare in a different way than if you're dropping off cases of Red Bull to the chow hall.
Yeah.
And there's a sandstorm coming, you think, oh, this can wait, and you're going to de-escalate that risk.
How is the decision, like dropping people off and picking people up, right?
Yeah.
Taking troops into combat, a little more, I feel, and of course I don't know this, so that's why I'm asking the question. Is it when troops are needing to get out now, I would imagine that's do you change your mindset on risk you'll take? Like I flew air ambulance for a minute and it wasn't for me. Cause I'm like, I'm going to get this flight done cause I want to save this person's life. I'm too like passionate about that kind of stuff. And I recognize that about myself right away. And I'm like, I shouldn't be in this job. Like, how would you handle that?
Well, when I was in Iraq, we were doing a mission called Aero Scout, and we were dropping Marines off. They were hitting a target and neutralizing that area or that situation. And then they were calling for to be retrograded. So, when they would call for a retrograde, it wasn't usually in a quote unquote hot area. The area was neutralized. It was a pretty calm area. So I can't speak to, taking guys in to, firefights because that wasn't something that I had to do on a regular basis. But I will say that there were times when Marines had to get moved and we're circumnavigating weather or we're circumnavigating hot zones or hot areas in and around Iraq. And you definitely just trust, again, going back to training, you trust the training that you had. You trust the guy on your left or right. You trust the guys in the other aircraft who you're flying alongside with, that everybody's going to adhere to the standards that we've trained to.
Yeah.
Stick to the profiles of our landings so that we don't ball it up or we have to go around or, so that there's not aircraft, that are running into each other as we're trying to land in a dusty zone.
Yeah. How would you guys handle if somebody made a mistake out there flying around, right? How would you guys handle that? I know in our world, we want full disclosure. So there's very few things that'll get you in trouble as a pilot in my world. And we want to know everything and let's learn from it.
Yeah.
How would you guys handle that kind of stuff? Somebody just, I don't know what they could screw up, but they don't do something right.
Right.
and everyone knows it.
Well, first you call them out.
Yeah.
It's an immediate call out.
Yeah.
But the most important part of our mission is, I say we plan, we brief, we execute, and then we debrief.
Yes.
And it's in the debrief that you get stripped down to nothing.
Really?
Everything gets called out. Everything at least should be called out.
It's pretty harsh, though.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't want to say harsh. It's just real.
Yeah.
If you've messed something up, expect that somebody's going to say something. Expect somebody's going to correct it. And expect that changes are going to be made.
Yeah.
And that could be at any level of the execution. It could be from the brief that you provided. Yeah. Was it clear and concise? Was, the flight that we performed, did it go as planned? And is that because of our execution, or was that part of the brief? So we get back and we sit in a room and we debrief every flight, and you can't have an ego in there.
Sure.
And you can't get emotional. You just have to take it as it is and know that you're going to try to do better next time.
Yeah.
And
ego is a very dangerous word for aviators. Lacking ego is a very positive thing when you're an aviator. You have to have confidence.
Yeah.
But there's a fine line between confidence and ego. It's even a safety thing for me. I always say, you want to be really confident in what you're doing, but also be open. And if we didn't do something right, how can we correct? And that ego always gets in the way if it's.
Well, I think as Marines, we're pretty self-deprecating already.
Yeah.
Because, we just put ourselves in a position to get made fun of. But when you walk into a debrief, if you have an ego, it comes out very quick.
Yeah.
And you'll get beat down. Yeah. And so it's best just to come in humble. Yeah. Admit where you made a mistake. And you could be right when somebody's calling you wrong, but it's better just to have that discussion, because we're on deployments or flying the president around. We're in very tight circles.
Sure.
We're around each other all the time.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want is somebody who doesn't trust you implicitly.
Yeah. So after all those radio call debriefs, do you got the radios now? Are you good on the radios?
I think so. It's been a while since I've flown, but that was always something that I made sure to help debrief.
Did you go back to your barracks and practice?
Oh, Jason, I spent so much time chair flying and doing radio calls that giving me PTSD.
When I was a student pilot in Santa Monica, I was bad on the radios too. But I learned to fly in Santa Monica underneath LAX Bravo. It's it's a very challenging place to learn to fly. And I had a little handheld radio. I'd go sit at the airport and just listen to radios all the time. And I'd practice and practice and practice. So,
well, if you can handle the calls here, you can handle them anywhere. I remember I used to we'd fly into New York.
Oh yeah.
To move the president in and around New York, whether it was for the United Nations General Council or just one of his movements. And I hated talking to JFK, the tower individuals there. It makes me nervous thinking about it, because they're so fast, they're so proficient, and they demand it from you.
It's kind of it's funny. You fly in there and they say things so fast.
Yeah.
Call signs, speeds, altitude. And it's really, guys, come on. Let's just take a nanosecond more and be a little more clear.
It's a sense of pride, and I get it. And they used to hate us or they probably still do, when we're flying the president and airspace has to be, cleared out.
Yeah.
But as soon as we switch call signs and go back, they treat us
really,
just with disdain, and basically tell us to get out of here. Go figure out your own way home.
That is so funny. First of all, thank you very much for your service, man.
Of course.
For combat tours.
Yeah.
5 years flying for the president. That's a pretty awesome military career. So congratulations.
Thank you.
But I want to talk about your family a little bit and kind of your life. And so coming back from deployment, you hadn't seen your family, and how long were you generally gone? 5-6 months?
Our deployment's about 8 to 9 months.
So that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time to be away from your wife. And, eventually, I know when you started, you didn't have kids, but then later tours, you had kids.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? You've been on this like intense job for 8 or 9 months, and now you're back home.
Yep.
And you're living there with kids, changing the diapers.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I kind of escalated myself into the situation. My first deployment, I was dating.
Mm-hmm.
My second deployment, I was married. Third deployment, married. And then fourth deployment, married with kids.
Oh, okay.
So I gradually walked myself into it.
Yeah.
But I'll say it's a complete 180. I mean, the flight home is so surreal because you've been doing something for 9 months. You've been doing the same thing for 9 months with little to no variability.
Yeah.
Right. You've been wearing the same green flight suit and shaving every day at the same time and flying these missions. And you go back to your room or the bunk and you don't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to, there's no real decompression because you're just getting up to do the same thing. And I'd say the biggest change is when you get back and having that family component.
Yeah.
Now, immediately you're responsible for interacting with your spouse.
Yeah.
And having those conversations, and that's completely different.
Yeah.
And then when you have kids,
And
getting back home and being dad after 9 months of just seeing them on screen or writing out letters. I mean, that's a whirlwind right there. It takes a couple days to get back in and adjust. And fortunately, my wife was incredibly supportive and said, John, let's take 3 days and just kind of, we'll ramp up the responsibilities.
Yeah.
First day, just let you be at home and
good for her
and see what our pace of life has been for the last 9 months so that was very helpful in getting back to an everyday.
Yeah. How has it been after the military? Is it totally different?
I thought it was going to be a smooth and easy transition, Jason, and it was anything but.
Yeah.
And I thought, here I am leaving, flying the president. I've got a top secret security clearance, lived in DC. I can do anything. And man, it was rough because I was at a pinnacle in my career, and I was looking at the next mountaintop that I wanted to achieve, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But I forget that it took me 20 years to get to that mountaintop. It took me 15 years before I was flying Marine One. And you see all those other mountaintops, but you forget you've got to go back down the mountain to the valley and work your way back up to the next thing. And that's the transition I forgot about that really kind of took me for a loop and caught me off guard. And I woke up.
Were you hard on yourself? Did you give yourself some grace? Like, how did you handle that?
I was incredibly hard on myself.
Yeah.
Incredibly. I thought, why am I not doing something more important? Why am I floundering? Did I miss something? Oh God, where did I miss your voice, and where did I not hear you correctly? Should I even gotten out of the Marine Corps? And of course, once you retire, there's no getting back.
Really? Yeah.
There's no knocking on the door saying, can I come back in? And I promise I play nice. You're stuck with that.
You're done.
And I, of course, shot myself in the foot, and I said, I want to live in a certain place, and there's certain things I want to do.
Yeah.
So I limited myself that way, but I definitely didn't think it would be as hard as it was to find an opportunity.
Yeah.
And when it didn't come quickly, the only person to blame is yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't want your kids or your wife to see you failing when you came from something
such success,
so visual.
Yeah.
As flying the president around.
Yeah.
But it was real. And I remember my turning point was a day I was sitting in my Jeep outside a big sporting goods store in Colorado Springs with an application to crank on bicycles.
Yeah.
And I thought, how far have I fallen to go from flying the president to now
we're going to go
working on bikes at Shields sporting goods store.
Interesting. Wow.
And that's when I realized I've got to turn this around. And I was doing some very successful things. or things that could have turned out to be big successes.
Yeah.
I had started a commercial real estate development company. I was doing some coaching.
Yeah.
I was speaking, all these things that look very grand
Yeah.
and look like you've hit success. But inside, I knew that none of those things were going to carry me.
Yeah.
And I needed to find something else. I needed to just put food on the table.
Yeah.
And I needed to be active. I needed to be active in my body. I needed to be active in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so going to find something that I could just put my efforts into.
Yeah.
That's when I realized I think I failed somewhere. And I don't think anybody else saw that. I know my wife did.
Yeah.
But outside of her, no one else saw that failure or felt that failure, but I sure did.
Yeah.
And so
I mean,
it's tough to turn it around.
Guys like when you, a lot of high level people, athletes, when they retire from professional sports, they go through a big transition. What am I going to do next? Yeah. There's only so many commentary jobs out there, for these guys. And
you want it to be bigger than the thing that you left from.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. I kind of went through the same thing when I was an athlete. My whole first half of my life, I was a professional athlete, triathlete, and then ultra endurance, multi-sport ultra endurance. And that was my whole identity. Everything about me, that was my identity. And when I retired, I was like very lost. What am I going to do? I applied to be a cop in LA, which my dad quickly shut down. I got a job at a sporting goods store. Yeah. And there was this outdoor store in Santa Monica called A16, which, I was an adventure athlete. I was like, that's all I spent literally most of my life outside in the mountains, running over mountains and riding bikes and kayaking and surfing, all this stuff. I'm like, perfect job. So I applied. I got the job as the assistant manager, zero experience. And it was right after, I'll never forget, it was in January, right after Christmas rush. And I'm standing in this huge sporting goods store, and it was so fucking boring. I'm just like, there's like nothing going on. And I'm like, I don't want to be here. I hate this so much. And I remember I'm a big surfer, and I left to go home for lunch, and I drove by the beach. I heard there was a big swell coming in, and it was just pumping. And I got to my house, looked at my boards, called my boss. I'm not coming back. And I grabbed my boards and surfed. Yeah. I went surfing that day. It was a really good decision for my mental health. Yeah. So yeah, I want to get into the work you're doing at Guardian Jet in a little bit, but you and I have a lot, just getting to know you, man. We have such a parallel background, and mostly centered around tragedy. Yeah. You had a lot of tragedy in your life, man.
As of you.
How has that shaped you as a human?
It has made my faith stronger. It's made my relationship with my wife stronger. It's made me enjoy the moments that we have together that much more. And that's hard to say, knowing the industry that we're in, where seconds matter and days matter, and you're away from your family a lot. But I respect that, the relationships I have in my community.
Yeah. Do you think it's made you more resilient?
For sure. For sure. I think between the Marine Corps and losing our daughter, and then this, going from the pinnacle of flying Marine One to hitting ground zero and then rebuilding, all those things have played into resiliency and my trust and my faith. They've all been building blocks. And I don't expect it to get easier. I expect there just to be harder, bigger challenges that will come, that I've now got to get over those. And these are building blocks for that.
Yeah, we both lost daughters in a very similar way. My daughter lived for 2.5 months in the NICU. I think Brooklyn lived for, I think you said 3 months.
3.5, yeah.
3.5 months. Tell me about Brooklyn. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so we were in Hawaii. I was at the time, the pinnacle of my career as a Marine Corps officer. I'd just taken over the maintenance department of a squadron, which is a big career boost as you are trying to continue, your route. And so we were in Hawaii. We had a 2-year-old son and just moved there, 0 community, 0 friends. And my wife was pregnant. And 5 months later, after we got there, she gave birth to Brooklyn. And long story short, we spent 86 days in the NICU trying to figure out what was wrong. Lungs were failing, heart was failing, kidneys, doctors were trying everything. A lot of tests, a lot of waiting, a lot of real good days, a lot of low days, a lot of days where we were thinking we're going to make it out of this. A lot of, several days where we took 2 steps backwards. And on the 86th day, we got woken up from bed and we drove to the hospital at 3, 4 in the morning. And the nurses said that they had already tried to resuscitate Brooklyn twice and that this was the last time they could do it. So come see her while she's got a few breaths left in her.
Yeah.
And so we did. We traveled to the hospital. We took our son who, had no idea what was going on.
Sure.
Wasn't even allowed in the NICU.
He was 2 years old?
2 years old.
Yeah.
Wasn't even allowed in the NICU, but it was his first time seeing his sister, was the day she passed away. And so that's really a tough place to be, where you're trying to advance your career. You're trying to grow as a family. Our faith was obviously shaken because I had told Marines that they would see me walk our daughter across the flight line as soon as she got out of the hospital. And that didn't happen. And I'd come back and tell those same Marines that it's not going to happen, but my faith I'm still hanging on to my faith.
Yeah.
And so it really taught my wife and I a lot about communication and grieving and how different we are at grieving.
Yeah.
I would go out on my surfboard and just yell at the water, slap the water, yell at God, and sort it all out there. And then I'd come home and be back to normal, where she was living with that grief on a daily basis. And so we had to learn how to communicate that. And that was really, really tough to do. So a very pivotal place in our relationship. As you know, it stresses you in all ways.
Most don't survive. Most relationships don't survive that.
Yeah.
Mine didn't.
Yeah. It's the odds are stacked against it actually surviving.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on. Yeah. Every day is a new stressor. Every day is a new.
The grief is such a personal thing. I remember, we lost Emery and we were in the NICU for same 2.5 months and like doing everything we could. And it was just like a fix it mode. And then, when she finally passed away, I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
And, this was 2010 and my company was a mess. We had just started in 2008. We were like pretty much like insolvent and could barely put fuel in the jet to go charter it. And my house is in foreclosure. And I'm like, I just have to go work. And I remember being out flying 2 days after she passed away. Probably shouldn't have been flying.
Yep.
But I had 2 other kids at home that I had to put food in their mouths and a roof over their head. And I had no choice. And I remember being out on the road. I think I was in Oklahoma on a flight, and I was driving by myself in a rental car back to the airport, and it just hit me, man. I had to pull over. I was just sobbing. Yeah. And I couldn't, I'm like emotional now. I couldn't where this is coming from. It was like in these waves, and it was just such a foreign experience to me to lose something, have a loss at that level.
Yeah.
Oh God, dude. It shapes you.
It absolutely does. And it, again, I don't think that's the easiest or that's the hardest thing that we'll ever encounter. I think that's, again, a stepping stone. Yeah. But you and I both have a story to tell, and there's a reason why Emory and Brooklyn were in our lives, and there's a reason why we are able to tell that story and to help the people behind us who may be going through that same situation.
Yeah.
And are able to keep it together because they hear of two other guys had no idea what they were doing and they're still here.
Yeah. One of the things that I feel like I grew so much through that experience. And one of the things I've really, like empathy is a very strong belief for me. Like cause you never know what's going on with somebody.
Yeah.
And, when you meet people, they could be going through something like that.
Yeah.
You just don't know. And it happens. It happens all the time, and especially the loss of a child. And like you and your, like, I was just like, you guys are amazing that you have navigated through all of these transitions in your life.
Sure.
It's a really uncommon story.
Sure.
I think you should write a book actually on how to navigate transitions.
I don't need any more to do right now.
I mean, you have a lot of energy. You're still a young guy. But like, yeah, when you and your wife were managing grief, like, did you guys like have like, you must have just had a lot of empathy for each other and understanding, and like, she's handling it this way, I'm handling it this way. And that's John's personal journey. And this is my wife's personal journey,
It's interesting you bring up empathy because I don't, at the time, I didn't understand how she was grieving, understanding that process. She didn't understand how I was grieving. Like I said, I'd go out and I'd surf and get it all out of my system, and I'd come home and she'd be crying, and I'd think, man, it's been 6 months. Like, ooh, is this going to end? Is there going to be a phase where it gets? Yeah. But I learned, as she did, that we both handle the situation different, and I also had to remember that she carried Brooklyn for 9 months longer than I had a relationship with her.
Yeah.
So
they have a different connection.
And I'm completely physical. I can't even, speak to that.
Yeah.
I was a dad of a daughter that I visited every day in the NICU for 86 days. That was my relationship. And hers was completely different. But what we had empathy for is when I learned how she was grieving, and I could open up the process by asking questions and trying to understand. She then recognized he's at least trying. Right. And when we could try to communicate, the effort was better than nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we had more empathy from our circle back in the States.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I was calling people, guys that I knew that were older than me, saying, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond. And some of them would just sit there in silence with me, but some would offer up, some advice or, hey,
I did the same. I seeked out connection at that time.
Yeah. Which is interesting because in Hawaii, we had the fewest connections that we've ever had in our marriage and my military career.
Yeah.
Because you're literally on an island away from everybody, and everybody thinks, oh, you live in Hawaii, what problems could you have?
Right.
And Hawaii was actually the place where I endured the most.
Yeah.
Lost 12 crew members in a crash, and then lost Brooklyn and then was deployed. And so a lot going on, but empathy is, when you look back, empathy is what we had for each other. Because I told my wife, Ryan, I said, we did lose our daughter. Let's work on not losing each other.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
And the other kids too. You had 2 other kids, you got to be there. And like, I feel like resilience is, such an important trait, especially like, when you, like what you're going through, a transition coming through, that resilience, I'm sure, even though you may not think about it, it's there. It lives there. You have this resilient mind that can deal with hardship. Like, not being able to find the right job that you think is right for you is not really that big of a fucking deal, right? Let's be honest. Losing it compared to what you've gone through, and as much as I wish that had never happened to me, it's part of who I am now.
Yeah.
which, and I kind of like that,
Yeah.
it's allowed me to navigate really hard stuff in life that probably would have taken me down
Sure.
had, other things not happen to me,
Yeah. It's one of those things you don't ever want to go through, but, it makes you so much stronger.
Yeah.
And it makes you more appreciative for the things you have around you.
Yeah. Tell me about, I talked a little bit about faith.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did the opposite of you. I was, I like, had a pretty strong faith. And after I just kept coming up, why? Like, why would this happen to me? Why would this happen to my daughter? Why would, this is so horrific. It was really hard for me to maintain faith. How, tell me about your relationship and how you navigate it.
Well, we talked about this on the phone the other day, you and I, and it's interesting. I said, as aviators, when there's chaos going on around you, there's something about us that allows us to kind of calm down, and one of my instructors said, the most important thing about an aviator is sounding cool on the radio. There could be a fire.
Screw that one up, Rico.
Yeah. There could be a fire in the back of the aircraft, but as long as you come on the radio and you sound cool, calm, and collective,
yeah,
everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And at least everybody thinks it's going to be okay.
Sure.
That's the approach that I took when everything was breaking down.
Interesting.
As soon as our daughter passed away, my wife said, I don't know who God is. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in the Bible. Healing's a sham. Why would we have this daughter to have her taken away 86 days later? What is this all for?
All the same thing. I have exactly my mindset and exactly what I went through.
I didn't have answers to any of those questions, but our relationship was founded on our faith. My wife and I's relationship. I mean, we met each other kind of because of our faith and our upbringing.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, well, if we can just buy us some time to try to figure this out. And that's when I said, hey, babe, we lost Brooklyn. Let's not lose each other. Let's just start back with the basics. Let's start with the fact that God loves us enough to put us together.
Yeah.
And we don't have to have the answer for why Brooklyn died or why she was born or what was her impact on this world. We don't have to have those answers, but let's just try to keep ourselves together. Let's try to and build one brick at a time until we've got this, foundation back. And it was long and hard. And it took a lot of conversations together, and we still can't answer why Brooklyn was with us.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm supposed to tell that story, and I know that I'm supposed to encourage other men that are going through that same situation, that it's okay to not have the answers, but to keep.
Did you feel lonely going through that?
Incredibly. 2 times in my life, I felt the loneliest was in Hawaii after Brooklyn died. And I too kept working because I didn't have anything else to do. And then I went to Afghanistan for 9 months and was kind of left with that. But my wife was left with it too. And now she's taking care of a 2-year-old. And then leaving the Marine Corps.
Oh.
And leaving what you have been around for 20 years. Yeah. And, I tried to surround myself with other people that had done the military thing because we speak a different language.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you feel that sense of failure puts you in an isolated, vulnerable place where you feel like you're the only person out there.
You're the only one feeling what you're feeling right now.
Those 2 places. And my natural inclination should have been, hey, let's just dig into our faith and let's dig into, but you try to self-diagnose and you try to fix it. And as guys, we try to get that. And so,
Yeah.
two lonely places that I'm fortunate for the communities that I had around me and my wife to be able to stick it through those hard times and say, hey, this is a really bad time, but I'm going to stay.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time seeking out people, men specifically, that have gone through a similar thing, groups and online things. And I met still friends with guys that I met through that process, and they felt exactly the same way. There was like, for some reason, I feel like when men go through this sort of tragic things like that, they're meant to be stoic and strong, and they don't need that emotional support. And it's completely opposite.
Yeah.
You know, I discovered therapy through this process, which I do today. I mean, and it's almost like this coaching thing for me now that it's made me a better person. It's made me a better husband, father, CEO. All the things that I do in life is just, that's come out of that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not all bad, but it came from a really dark place.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up coaching, because that's when I started coaching. It was right when I got out of the Marine Corps. I thought, well, I've been great at starting things my whole life. I've been great at taking action. Let me find other men that are struggling with taking action in their lives, whether that's in business or fitness or marriage. Let's just kind of tackle all those subjects. And I started a coaching practice, and it was when I had 8 or 9 clients pretty quickly. Then I thought, oh man, this is actually therapy for me, because I'm realizing I'm not the only one in this place. I'm not the only one struggling with how to deal with something.
Yeah.
And I was able to provide, I think, some pretty good guidance and help some of them get started in their journey. And that's what the podcast, how the podcast started out. And that's how, that's how I met Mark Nardi Day and got to where I am with Guardian. I mean, just so many things led to where we are right now.
That's great. Well, where we are right now is, so you have the Second Act podcast, which I'm going to be a guest on. I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So all of this is why you started the podcast, like all this.
Yeah. So the podcast was, so going back to one of my early coaching clients, it was Michael Newborn, who's my co-host on the Second Act. And we had a really great time figuring out his problems, getting through them, growing together from what he was trying to get through and start. And he called me up one day after our term expired and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. Let's talk about it. And we had coffee, and an hour later, when I went into the conversation, I had zero desire to do a podcast. Hour later, I said, let's just give it a try. And we're now 2 years in.
Yeah. You've done a lot of episodes.
And the podcast is based on people who have done something and are transitioning into something else, whether that's a career or that's a medical condition that they're now getting out of, or we've had guests that were incarcerated and now trying to find jobs, and they're helping other incarcerated personnel. Guy who was a runner who ended up having to amputate his leg because of medical complications. So just so many things that we discuss on the show, but it all started because I had a desire to coach and help other people.
Well, and even before that, all the hard shit you had to go through and transitions, and it's Well, I can't wait. I've listened to a few episodes. I really like it. So we'll put the link to it in the show notes and all that.
It's gonna be good.
So we're getting long on time here. I know we're on a time crunch here. But I wanted to touch. You've transitioned now into the wonderful world of private jets. Which is my industry, which is how we met.
Yeah.
And actually, we met through Mark Nardi Day, who runs all of our aircraft management.
Yep.
Fantastic guy. And
human.
Yeah. And he's actually up in San Francisco today. I was hoping he was going to be here, but he had to go. Private, so Marine aviator, you have some aviation background, but to sell private jets, you're selling these extremely expensive pieces of equipment to the highest end client on the planet.
Yeah.
How has that been?
Oh, it's been a whirlwind.
Because it was like,
It's so exciting.
because you told me you'd never even thought about this area.
Never
Now
thought
here
of
you're
this.
doing. I mean, you're with one of the best brokerage houses in the world,
Yeah.
Guardian Jet. These guys are like the best,
Oh, I'm blessed.
and they're the biggest.
Yeah.
And you're in the kind of the epicenter of this world.
Yeah. So let me go back real quick because it was the podcast. We had a launch party for our first episode. Right before our first episode hit the waves, we had a launch party. And it was at that launch party that a girl who I'd never even met came to the event as a guest of somebody else, of a friend of ours who's a Navy SEAL. She works for the Navy SEALs Foundation. She talked to me after the launch party and said, "Hey, what are you interested in doing? And you've done this stuff with aviation, but," she goes, "Are you interested in sales?" And I said, "No, that's a dirty word to me. I'm not going to go that route." She goes, "Well, I want to introduce you to somebody." She gave me 3 people and 3 numbers to call. And I called every one of them. I'm always good about reaching out to people if they come from a referred source, but one of those was Mark. And I had 3 conversations with Mark. And the 3rd conversation led me to call Russ Piggott at Guardian Jet, who has military background. Yeah. And I said, "What's this gig like?" And he said, "You should try for it." And I did. And yeah, here we are almost 2 years later. And I've been with Guardian Jet for those 2 years. And it has been such an amazing experience. Had I known I was joining a top tier brokerage,
you didn't even know how these guys were.
I didn't know.
That's luck. That's just luck.
And it is. And it's luck. And it goes back to that thing about relationships and favor. For me, faith, it's trust that God's got a plan and he's working every day to move things around so you find those opportunities. And so, yeah, it's been a phenomenal experience. It's been such a big learning curve, and every day I'm learning something new, and so grateful for the team that Guardian's built around me and us. And I'm so thankful for the relationships that it's opening up literally every day.
Well, that's such a great way to end this episode. And it's all about relationships, and all the people, our mutual friends, they're just awesome people.
Yeah. And
we're going to do business with them as long as we can. We're going to be friends. We're about to go to Vegas for MBAA, and it's going to be a super good time. We're going to see all of them, and I'm sure we'll hang out there. And I'm actually going to do a little micro interview at the Guardian booth with Russ.
Okay.
For the show. So I'm doing a whole series of micro interviews at MBAA this year.
I promise not to interrupt.
You totally have to interrupt. I love it, man. But John, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and listen to the Second Act podcast, everybody, aviators, and we'll put all of the links and everything in the show notes. Perfect. And people can come check out your website, podcast. And awesome, man. Thanks again, John. Appreciate you.
Amazing opportunity. I would make the trip again to do this all over. So
awesome.
Thank you for being who you are and encouraging aviators to branch out and see other things.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Flight Club podcast. Please subscribe to the show, leave a comment below, and follow us on Instagram at Flight Club Pod. We'll see you next time.
This is a Kilo Bravo Media production.